Welcome students. Today's topic of lecture is sternocleidomastoid muscle and the posterior triangle of neck. The side of the neck, it is the quadrangular space which is bounded anteriorly by the anterior midline of the neck. Posteriorly, it is bounded by the anterior fibers of the trapezius muscle. Superiorly, it is bounded by the lower border of the mandible, also called as the base of the mandible, a line joining from angle of mandible to the mastoid process and the mastoid process itself. Inferiorly, it is bounded by the clavicle. The side of the neck, it is common site for the various pathological lesions such as lymphadenopathy, cyst formation, tumors. It is also a frequent site for performing various clinical procedures such as biopsy, venipuncture and the nerve block. This quadrangular shaped side of the neck, it is divided into two triangular space by the presence of an obliquely placed muscle called as sternocleidomastoid. So this sternocleidomastoid muscle is the key muscle of this region which divides this quadrangular space into two triangular space. A triangular space situated behind to the sternocleidomastoid is the posterior triangle of the neck whose apex is directed upward and backward, and a triangular space situated in front of the sternocleidomastoid is the anterior triangle of the neck whose apex is situated downward. Before going into the details about this triangle, we will study this sternocleidomastoid muscle under the headings such as origin, insertion, nerve supply, blood supply and the action. The sternocleidomastoid muscle, it acts as the key muscle of this region whose origin is by the sternal head and the clavicular head. The sternal head is tendinous and it is arises from the superolateral part of the front of the manubrium sterni. Below to the suprasternal notch. Its fibers, it passes upward, backward and laterally. Its fibers, they are passes upward, backward and laterally in front of the sternoclavicular joint. The clavicular head, it is flat and musculo-aponeurotic in nature. It is originated from medial third of the superior surface of the clavicle. The fibers runs vertically upward, blends with the fibers of the sternal head to form the fusiform belly, and this is inserted in the form of tendon on the mastoid process of the temporal bone, and thin aponeurosis will also extend to the superior nuchal line. The muscle is supplied by spinal accessory nerve. It also supplies to the trapezius muscle, and this sternocleidomastoid muscle is also supplied by the ventral rami of the second and third cervical nerve. It acts as a sensory nerve supply and it will carry the proprioceptive sensation from the muscle. About the blood supply, it is divided into upper part, middle part and the lower part. Upper part is supplied by the occipital artery and the posterior auricular artery. Middle part, it is supplied by the superior thyroid artery, and the lower part, it is supplied by the suprascapular artery. The knowledge of the arterial supply is important to make the muscle flap in reconstructive surgery. One important point to consider here is, in between the sternal head and the clavicular head, a small fossa or a small gap is present. This is called as the lesser supraclavicular fossa. So the lesser supraclavicular fossa is located in between the two heads of the sternocleidomastoid muscle, which contains the terminal part of internal jugular vein. Whereas the greater supraclavicular fossa, it is situated just above to the middle 1/3 part of the clavicle, and that lodges or that contains brachial plexus and the subclavian artery, mainly its third part. That we will see in the posterior triangle of the neck. What about its actions? When muscle contracts, it tilts the head towards the same side of the shoulder, whereas chin is pointed towards the opposite side. So this movement is present during an upward sideways glance. When both the muscles contract, it will pull the head forward, as in lifting the head from the pillow or bending the head during eating of the food. The third action of this muscle is, it will act as the accessory muscle of the respiration during deep inspiration. We will see in short about its relation. Relations are same as like the relations present on the side of the neck in its superficial part. So in the superficial aspects, this muscle is covered by the skin, platysma, the cutaneous nerves present in the superficial fascia, the external jugular vein, superficial cervical groups of lymph nodes and the parotid gland. Whereas in the deep relations in the upper part, it is present are the posterior belly of the digastric muscle and the occipital artery. In the middle part, it is related with the two arteries, that is transverse cervical artery and the suprascapular artery, and it is also related with the inferior belly of the omohyoid muscle. In the lower part, it is related with the anterior jugular vein and the superior thyroid artery. So these are the relations present in the superficial and the deeper aspect. About its applied importance, the torticollis or the wry neck, it is a clinical condition in which the head is bent to one side and chin is pointed to the other side. This mainly occurs because of the spasm of the sternocleidomastoid and the trapezius muscle, and these two muscles, they are supplied by the spinal part of the accessory nerve. So these are having different types such as spasmodic, reflex and the congenital one. In spasmodic, there occurs repeated painful contraction of these two muscles, and this is mainly occurs because of exposure to the cold and the maladjustment of the pillow during the sleep. In reflex torticollis, it occurs due to irritation of the spinal accessory nerve because of inflamed lymph nodes. The congenital torticollis is a condition occurs due to birth injury. So, a permanent torticollis may also occur because of the subsequent ischemic contracture. The next applied importance of this sternocleidomastoid muscle is its tumor. It is nothing but it is a swelling in the middle third of the sternocleidomastoid muscle due to edema and the ischemic necrosis caused mainly because of the birth trauma. Coming back to the next part of our today's lecture, that is the posterior triangle of the neck. What is the definition of the posterior triangle of the neck? It is the triangular space on the side of the neck behind the sternocleidomastoid muscle. So it is a triangular space on the side of the neck situated behind the sternocleidomastoid muscle. Its apex, it is directed upward and backward towards the mastoid process, whereas the base, it is directed downward towards the clavicle. We will see its boundaries first. Anteriorly, it is bounded by posterior border of sternocleidomastoid muscle. Posteriorly, it is bounded by the anterior border of the trapezius muscle. The base is present at the superior aspect of middle third part of the clavicle. Superiorly or apex, it is formed by the meeting point of the sternocleidomastoid and the trapezius muscle, which is present on the superior nuchal line. About the roof, it is mainly formed by this investing layer of the deep cervical fascia, which is stretching in between the sternocleidomastoid muscle and the trapezius muscle. Then superficial fascia overlying the roof, it will contain this one important muscle, which is the subcutaneous thin sheet of a muscle called as the platysma. The contents of the roof, it also has four cutaneous nerves. These are the greater auricular, lesser occipital, transverse cervical nerve and the supraclavicular nerve. It is also pierced by the external jugular vein. The details of these contents we will see subsequently. The floor of the posterior triangle of the neck is mainly muscular, which is covered by the prevertebral layer of the deep cervical fascia. So in the roof, we are having the investing layer of the deep cervical fascia, and in the floor, we are having the prevertebral layer of the deep cervical fascia. So floor of this posterior triangle is mainly muscular in nature, which forms a fascial carpet of the posterior triangle. From above downward, the muscles are semispinalis capitis, splenius capitis, levator scapulae and the scalenus medius muscle. So the muscular floor of the posterior triangle, it is covered by the prevertebral layer of the deep cervical fascia, which forms a fascial carpet, and it also forms the axillary sheath to cover the subclavian artery and the brachial plexus, which is traveling from the root of the neck up to the upper limb through axilla. So we will see now the contents which are present in the superficial fascia of the roof. It is consisting of the four cutaneous branches of the cervical plexus. So remember that though the cervical plexus is situated in a deeper part, but its cutaneous branches emerge at the midpoint of or just above the midpoint of the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid muscle. So this is the midpoint, which is also called as the nerve point of the neck. So we will see one by one. This is the lesser occipital nerve. The lesser occipital nerve, it hooks around this spinal accessory nerve. So this is the hooking of the lesser occipital nerve over the spinal part of the accessory nerve. The nerve, it runs along with the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid muscle to enter into the posterior aspect of the scalp. Here it will innervate the skin of the upper one-third of the cranial surface of this auricle, and it will also supplies to the area of the scalp behind to the auricle. The greater auricular nerve, this is the greater auricular nerve which runs upward and forward across the sternocleidomastoid towards the angle of the mandible, where it divides into the anterior branch and the posterior branch. So anterior branch will supplies to the skin over the angle of the mandible, and the posterior branch it will supplies to the lower part of the both surfaces of this auricle. Now the third nerve is the transverse cervical nerve, which passes forward across the sternocleidomastoid muscle deep to the external jugular vein. So here you can see this is the external jugular vein, and deep to it is the presence of the transverse cervical nerve, where it divided into descending branch and the ascending branch to supply the skin of the front of the neck. The fourth nerve is this supraclavicular nerve, arises as a common trunk which descends downward and divides into medial, intermediate and the lateral supraclavicular nerve. Occasionally, this intermediate supraclavicular nerve pierces the clavicle bone. So what is the nerve point of the neck that I have told is the point at the junction of the upper and the middle third of the posterior border of sternocleidomastoid muscle, where these four cutaneous nerves of the cervical plexus and the spinal accessory nerve emerge. So emergence of these four cutaneous nerves, lesser occipital, great auricular, transverse cervical and the supraclavicular nerve along with the spinal accessory nerve is called as the nerve point of the neck, and it is important for the cervical plexus nerve block during the anesthesia procedure. Now we will see about the external jugular vein. So what is external jugular vein? It begins just below the angle of the mandible by joining of posterior division of the retromandibular vein and the posterior auricular vein. The vein runs downward and laterally across the sternocleidomastoid muscle to terminate in the subclavian vein. This vein, it is become visible in the old age, particularly when the individual holds his breath with mouth closed. So venous return to the right side of the heart and distends the vein. It is having various tributaries such as the posterior external jugular vein which runs along the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid muscle. It is also having the anterior jugular vein as a tributary in the lower part. These two are the formative tributaries like retromandibular vein and the posterior auricular vein, whereas the terminal tributaries are the oblique vein, transverse cervical vein, suprascapular vein and this anterior jugular vein. These are the tributaries. So now coming back to the subdivisions of the posterior triangle of the neck. The posterior triangle of the neck, it is subdivided by the presence of inferior belly of the omohyoid muscle into larger occipital triangle and the smaller subclavian or the supraclavicular triangle. The parts are so named because they contain the occipital artery in the upper part and the subclavian artery in the lower part. So the names are according to that. So the boundaries are again different for the occipital triangle and because of this presence of the inferior belly of the omohyoid muscle. Now coming back to the content, in the upper, this is the inferior belly of the omohyoid. So part present above is the larger occipital triangle and the part situated below is the smaller subclavian triangle. So in the larger occipital triangle, the content are, the main content here is the spinal accessory nerve. This is the spinal accessory nerve. These are the branches of the third and the fourth cervical nerve. We can see the four cutaneous nerves over here along with the supraclavicular nerve. In the uppermost part, we can see the tortuous force of the occipital artery. So the contents of this occipital triangle of the neck is, in this diagrammatic view, you can see that this is the spinal accessory nerve along with the presence of the lymph node along the spinal accessory nerve. The four cutaneous nerve, this is the lesser occipital, greater auricular, transverse cervical and the supraclavicular nerves. Occipital artery can be seen in the upper part along with the superficial transverse cervical artery. In the subclavian triangle, here on the levator scapulae again, the presence of the nerve to the levator scapulae, two small branches of to the trapezius, they are also seen. We can see the dorsal scapular nerve also in this region. and along with the presence of the lymph node which are situated around the spinal accessory nerve. The contents of the subclavian triangle are, which are the nerves present over here? These are the nothing but the three trunks of the brachial plexus and the branches from the roots, like nerve to the serratus anterior muscle, branches from the upper trunk like nerve to the subclavius and suprascapular nerve. So here you can see the suprascapular nerve and here is the nerve to the subclavius muscle. This one, nerve to the subclavius muscle. These are the branches. This is the upper trunk of the brachial plexus and the branches are nerve to the subclavius and the suprascapular nerve. In the arteries, we are having the third part of the subclavian artery along with its subclavian vein and presence of the few supraclavicular groups of lymph nodes. So these are the contents of the occipital and subclavian or the supraclavicular triangle. So here again shown the same diagram. There you can see the subclavian vein, third part of the subclavian artery. Then three trunks of the brachial plexus. The branches from the upper trunk, these are the suprascapular nerve and nerve to subclavius muscle. So these are the contents of the subclavian triangle, and from the upper triangle, spinal accessory nerve which is running downward towards the trapezius muscle. These are the lymph nodes present and the four cutaneous nerve. We will see about this content in detail. We have seen about these four cutaneous nerves mainly. We will see the main content of this triangle is the spinal part of the accessory nerve. The most important content are, one is the spinal accessory nerve, another one is the third part of the subclavian artery, the brachial plexus and the presence of the lymph nodes. So spinal accessory nerve, this nerve emerges in the posterior triangle just above the midpoint of the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid muscle. It is related to the lymph nodes of the upper deep cervical chain. The nerve then crosses the posterior triangle obliquely by running downward and laterally over and parallel to the fibers of levator scapulae muscle to disappear underneath the anterior border of this trapezius muscle. During its course, it is adherent to the deep aspect of the facial tooth. So, spinal accessory nerve, it lies in front of the transverse process of the atlas vertebra which runs downward and laterally. The spinal accessory nerve, it may be damaged in the operation involving removal or the biopsy of the lymph nodes which are situated surrounding to the spinal part of the accessory nerve. So, if it gets injured, it will cause paralysis of the trapezius muscle and there will be the difficulty in combing the hairs. Next part is the muscular branches to the levator scapulae, that is the third and the fourth cervical nerves. They appear at about the middle of the sternocleidomastoid muscle just below to the spinal accessory nerve, and they are again present parallel to it, this nerve, and crosses the middle triangle. Then in the occipital triangle itself we are having nerve to the rhomboidus muscle. About the brachial plexus, the cervical part of the brachial plexus, the roots and the trunks mainly, they are present in the subclavian triangle. So again in the occipital triangle, the arteries situated, these are the occipital artery, it is the branch of the external carotid artery being present at the apex of the posterior triangle of the neck. In the occipital triangle again, transverse cervical artery is present which is a branch of thyrocervical trunk of the first part of the subclavian artery. Then in the subclavian triangle we are having the long thoracic nerve, dorsal scapular nerve arises from here and it is present in the occipital part. The long scapular nerve or the nerve to the long thoracic nerve, it is also called as the nerve to the serratus anterior. It arises from, so this is here you can see the nerve to the serratus anterior muscle. It is arises from C5, C6, C7 roots. Nerve to the subclavius, it is arises from upper trunk of the brachial plexus. Suprascapular nerve is again arises from the upper trunk of the brachial plexus, passes laterally deep to the inferior belly of the omohyoid and the trapezius muscle. The artery present here is mainly the third part of the subclavian artery which passes behind the scalenus anterior muscle over the first rib. So subclavian artery, it is enclosed in the axillary sheath along with this brachial plexus. So axillary sheath is present over here which is the extension of the prevertebral layer of the deep cervical fascia. Now here are again the presence of the lymph nodes. So in this diagram you can see the presence of the lymph nodes. The lymph nodes, they are mainly present along the posterior border of the sternocleidomastoid muscle, A chain of lymph nodes, they are present along with the spinal part of the spinal accessory nerve. Then in the apical region of this posterior triangle of the neck, we are having occipital lymph nodes, and in the subclavian triangle, we are having supraclavicular groups of lymph nodes. So these are the contents of the posterior triangle of the neck. Now coming to the applied aspect, what is the cold abscess in the posterior triangle? Cold abscess, it is nothing but the pus collected in the posterior triangle deep to the facial carpet, and this occurs because of the tuberculosis of the cervical vertebrae. If cold abscess is present, it may track downwards and laterally along the axillary sheath to first appear in the axilla and then even appear in the arm. The next applied importance of this region is the brachial plexus block. The brachial plexus in the posterior triangle, it is located below the line extending from posterior border of sternocleidomastoid to the midpoint of clavicle. In this region, the brachial plexus can be blocked by injection of a local anesthesia between the purse strip and the skin above the clavicle. So it can also be done during various surgical procedures. Venous air embolism is what? This is mainly related with the applied aspect of the external jugular vein. As the wall of the external jugular vein, it is adherent to the deep fascia. So if the external jugular vein is cut, its walls cannot collapse. So consequently, it results in the air is sucked into the lumen due to negative intrathoracic pressure, and it will lead to the venous air embolism. The external jugular vein can also be used for the central venous cannulation. We can measure the jugular venous pressure by looking at the right external jugular vein, as it will reflect the pressure present in the right atrium, and if it is increased, it will suggest the congestive cardiac failure. The swelling present in the posterior triangle of the neck, it is mainly due to enlarged supraclavicular groups of lymph nodes, and these are also called as, if the left supraclavicular lymph nodes are enlarged, they are called as the Virchow's lymph node, that are commonly involved in the metastasis from cancer stomach, cancer testis, and cancer of other abdominal organ. It is also increased in the Hodgkin's lymphoma. So the supraclavicular lymph nodes are commonly involved in tuberculosis, Hodgkin's disease, and the malignant growth of the breast, arm, and the chest. What is the block dissection of the neck? The block dissection of the neck is that it is mainly performed during the malignancy for the removal of the cervical group of lymph node along with the other structures involved in that metastatic group. This procedure does not endanger those nerves of the posterior triangle which lie deep to the prevertebral fascia, that is the brachial plexus and the cervical plexus. So both these plexuses, they lie beneath to the prevertebral layer of the deep cervical fascia. So there is no any harm to these plexuses, but all those structures which are present superficial to it can be in danger during this procedure of block dissection of the neck. So this is all about the posterior triangle and the sternocleidomastoid muscle, on which you can get a short note as well as long answer question. Thank you.